What's up guys, today we're going to be looking into the class 10 science life processes exemplar questions. So first question, it's an MCQ. Which of the following statements about autotrophs is incorrect? So we learned about autotrophs and how they their own food using photosynthesis, but in this question we have to find correct statements regarding their working. So A, they synthesize carbohydrates from carbon dioxide and water and present sunlight and chlorophyll. So this statement is true, but in the question we have to find the incorrect statement. So we have to cross it off. B, these carbohydrates in the form of starch. This is also true, so it's wrong. C, they convert carbon dioxide and water into carbohydrates in the absence of sunlight. In the option A, they mentioned presence, but C, we have to consider that it's the absence of sunlight. This is false, which means it's correct in this question as we have to find the incorrect one. So option C is correct. Okay, next question. B, in which of the following groups of organisms food material is broken down outside the body and then absorbed? So we learned about heterotrophic nutrition and how various organisms have various nutritive apparatus. And one of them in the saprophytic mode is to break down food outside the body and then absorb it. So the organisms who undergo this type of nutrition, or the saprotrophs, include the decomposers like yeast and mushrooms, rhizobius, etc. So it can't be A. They have green plants in the option, and green plants, as we know, are autotrophs, and it has to be B, because yeast, mushroom, and red mold, these are all saprophytes. So option B is the correct answer. Okay. Third question. Select the correct statement. A. Heterotrophs do not synthesize their own food. This is a correct statement, which means it's correct. Yeah, option A is the right answer. Fourth question. What is the correct sequence of parts in the human alimentary canal? So I've made a video on the human alimentary canal. Link it somewhere on top. So one of the most important models that are given in Exemplar, and they might also come for board exams, are sequence-based questions. So they are testing students based on how well they know about the sequences of parts in the diagrams that they give. In this case, we're have to find about the human alimentary canal. Option A, mouth, stomach, small intestine, esophagus, large intestine. This is false, because we know that after the mouth, the food enters through the esophagus and then the stomach, but the esophagus is after the small intestine, so it's clearly false. B, mouth, esophagus, stomach, large intestine, small intestine. This is also false, because we know first the small intestine comes and then the large intestine. B, mouth, stomach, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine. This is also false, because here we see after mouth we have the stomach and then the esophagus, but the esophagus comes before the stomach, which leaves us with D. Mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine. This is the correct option. Answer is D. Moving on to the fifth question. If salivary amylase is lacking in the saliva, which of the following events in the mouth cavity will be affected? So to attempt this question, we have to know two things. What is amylase and what does it do? Well, amylase is a type of enzyme present in salivary glands, and what it does is it breaks down the starch into simple sugar. So it can't be A, because as I just mentioned, it's not proteins, and it's B, because starch breaking down into sugar. That's what the salivary amylase does, and if it's not present, then this event will be the one that's being affected. So the option is B for question number 5. Sixth question. The inner lining of the stomach is protected by one of the following from hydrochloric acid. Choose the correct one. So this is one of the functions of mucus. In the lining of the stomach, due to the corrosion caused by hydrochloric acid, it might wear and tear, but the inner lining of the stomach is protected by mucus, which prevents this from happening. So the answer is B, mucus. Seventh, which part of the alimentary canal receives bile from the liver? So the answer is small intestine, because we know the small intestine receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas, that is to receive bile juice, bile pigments, and trypsin and lipase, respectively, from the liver and pancreas. So the answer is small intestine. Eighth question. A few drops of iodine solution were added to rice water. This solution turned blue-black in color. This indicates that rice contains. So we have to know two things. We have to know what rice contains to attempt it, or we can use other logic based on the drops of iodine solution were added and turned blue-black. So by simple, logic, we can deduce that rice water, since it has rice, contains starch because rice is a carbohydrate. But we can also use the logic here that if we add iodine solution and it turns blue-black, as mentioned, that indicates that it contains starch because starch is turned blue-black when iodine is added to it. So the answer is D, starch. Moving on to the ninth question. In which part of the alimentary canal food is finally digested? So this is line by line written in the textbook. The small intestine is the site of complete digestion of food. So the answer is D. 10th question. Choose the function of the pancreatic juice from the following. So another model that's given is about functions of different juices, different organs, different parts, etc. Previously we've seen about the function of amylase, and we've also seen a question about the function of the bile juice. So now we have to find about pancreatic juice. So pancreatic juice, there are two types. There's trypsin and there's lipase. Trypsin digests proteins, lipase digests emulsified fats. That's just the basic way to remember it. So trypsin digests proteins, lipase carbohydrates is false. It is true that trypsin digests proteins, but the fact lipase digests carbohydrates, that's false. Okay. B. Trypsin digests emulsified fats and lipase proteins. This is just the opposite. Trypsin actually digests proteins, lipase emulsified fats. So it's wrong. Trypsin and lipase digest fats. This is wrong. D. Trypsin digests proteins and lipase emulsified fats. This is true. The answer is D. 11th question. When air is blown from the mouth into a test tube containing lime water, the lime water turned milky due to the presence of. So this is based on an experiment given in the textbook. The lime water turns milky due to carbon dioxide, and many other substances, they turn milky in color when carbon dioxide acts on them. And if you don't know this, use simple logic. When air is blown from the mouth, the only type of air we can blow from our mouth is only carbon dioxide, because we take in oxygen and we give out carbon dioxide. So through that logic and the other concept I just mentioned, the answer is B, carbon dioxide. 12th question. The correct sequence of anaerobic respiration in yeast is, so as I mentioned, the model of sequences are very important and they're repeatedly asking questions. So here we're learning about anaerobic reactions in yeast. So what are anaerobic reactions? So basically the reactions of anaerobic respiration, or respiration in the absence of oxygen. And in yeast, what happens is that the pyruvate, it breaks down in the cytoplasm into alcohol or ethanol and carbon dioxide with a small amount of energy. So we see here that all the options began with glucose, breaks down into pyruvate in cytoplasm. So we can just ignore that. We have to start from here. In option A, it mentioned that pyruvate breaks down the mitochondria to ethanol and carbon dioxide. This is false. It is in the cytoplasm. Option B, pyruvate breaks down in the cytoplasm to lactic acid. This is false. Lactic acid is only broken down from pyruvate in the muscle cells. And then pyruvate, option C, pyruvate in mitochondria. This is again false. Option D, pyruvate breaks down in the cytoplasm to ethanol and carboxide. As I mentioned, this is true. So the option is D. 13th question. Which of the following is most appropriate for aerobic respiration? So this is also a sequence-based question. Well, it's based on the equation, but here they're mentioning what's most appropriate for aerobic respiration. Or basically, we have to find out the correct equation for aerobic respiration. That's basically what the question is. Option A, glucose breaks down in the mitochondria to pyruvate. This is false. First, it takes place in the cytoplasm. Option B, glucose breaks down the cytoplasm to pyruvate and in the mitochondria into CO2 plus H2O plus energy. This is all again false, because you have to mention here that even glycolysis, or the breaking down of glucose into pyruvate, requires some energy, and so it's actually pyruvate plus energy. not only pyruvate. Option C, as you can see here, glucose breaks down cytoplasm to pyruvate plus energy, and in the mitochondria, it breaks down to CO2 plus H2O. But it also produces energy. So that means that option D correctly explains the equation for aerobic respiration. So the correct option is D for question number 13. 14th question. Which of the following statements are true about respiration? First option. During inhalation, ribs move inward and the diaphragm is raised. This is false, as we know. Second option. In the alveoli, exchange of gases takes place. That is, oxygen from the alveolar air diffusing into the blood and carbon dioxide from the blood. Yes, this is true. So if I were to explain this diagrammatically, suppose this is the alveoli. So from the blood, the oxygen diffuses, and then from the alveoli, the carbon dioxide diffuses back. Third option. Hemoglobin has great affinity for carbon dioxide than oxygen. This is false. It's actually the opposite. Hemoglobin has great affinity for oxygen. Last option, alveoli increases the surface area for exchange of gases. This is a very true statement. So the correct option is 1 and 2. 15th. Which is the correct sequence of air passage during inhalation? A. Nostrils, larynx, pharynx, trachea, lungs. No, this is wrong. We know that first comes the pharynx, then the larynx, and then the trachea. B. Nasal passage, trachea, pharynx, larynx. This is false. C. Larynx, nostrils, pharynx, lungs. This is false, which means the option is D. Nostrils, pharynx, larynx, trachea, alveoli. 16th. During respiration, exchange of gases takes place in... So exchange of gases takes place in the alveoli, which means the option is B. In no other place does exchange of gases take place. 17th. Which of the following statements are true about the heart? So, left atrium receives oxygenated blood from different parts of the body, while right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from the lungs. This is wrong. Pretty straightforward. Because the oxygenated blood doesn't come from different parts of the body, it just comes from the lungs itself. Second option. Left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to various parts of the body, while the right ventricle pumps deoxygenated blood to the lungs. This is true, because it's correctly representing the functions of each chamber of the heart. Third option. Left atrium transfers oxygenated blood to right ventricle. This is false, because we know left atrium transfers the blood to the left ventricle again. There's no cross exchange of blood between the two chambers, left and right. And also in the left atrium only transfers to the left ventricle. Fourth option, right atrium receives deoxygenated blood from different parts of the body, while left ventricle pumps oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. This is true, which means the correct option is C, 2 and 4. 18th question. What prevents backflow of blood inside the heart during contraction? We know this is a function of the valves, as in the blood vessels during contraction, there's a chance that the blood would move backwards. And this reduces the efficiency of the transport system. So to prevent that, they don't flow backwards and they flow in one uniform direction. For efficient pumping of blood, valves are present to ensure that they're unidirectional. So the answer is A. 19th question. During single circulation, that is, blood flows through the heart only once during one cycle of passage during the body, is exhibited by. So it's basically asking us which animals perform single circulation. So we have to expect that only sea animals with gills exhibit this type of circulation, as the gills directly pump the blood to the heart and then the various parts of the body. So double circulation doesn't take place, and they don't need double circulation as they don't have high energy demands. So the option is B, as hippocampus, seahorse, exocritus, animals. These are all sea animals or types of fishes, and they are the ones who exhibit single circulation. 20th question. Groups. Heart does not pump oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. Or they're basically asking, if heart does not pump to different parts of the body, that's referring to single circulation. So that the answer is Pisces only. Pisces means fish, and we know that due to the presence of gills and their low energy demands, they do not need to pump oxygenated blood to different parts of the body. That is, they do not have double circulation. The option is D. So there are more MCQs in this exemplar problems, and there are many short answers and long answers. So stay tuned for the upcoming parts. I will be discussing all of them. The part 2, part 3 video, I'll link it down below once they get published. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.